Greetings, creeps, and welcome to Convo Fango. Today, we are talking Malum with the director, co-writer Anthony DiBlasi, and star Jessica Sula. I hope I didn't fuck up the pronunciations. I should have.
Oh,
Good?
fantastic.
Oh, look at that. First try. All right.
Oh,
Well, thank you guys. I summoned you here and you appeared, so thanks for coming.
yes, it works. You have tapped into the ritual.
Yeah. First off, Anthony, my main question is what made you want to sort of reimagine Last Shift?
Well, a fellow friend, Luke LeBeau, when they started Welcome Villain, a friend introduced me to Luke and we had started talking about project and he said, like, what do you think about reimagining or revisiting the world of Last Shift again? And for me and Scott, that was always intriguing from the get-go because we did everything we wanted to a sense of like, I felt like that movie was complete. I'm very happy with it. But because of the budget size, there was always things we had to leave on the table, which we could explore in this one and also reinvent in this one. I think the main thing for me is that I felt like I told a complete story that was pleasing to an audience, pleasing to genre fans. I wanted it to be seen in a theater. And it never, at least in the States, it never played theatrically. It was streaming and then Blu-ray and DVD. And it had a good run and it has had great longevity, the first film. But with this movie, we get to have that theatrical experience. We get to kind of take the bits that we really thought worked in the first film, try to reinvent them a bit in this movie, but tell a much bigger and in-depth story. And I think as a horror fan, being able to create more of a villain, more of a mythology with that villain to, get horror fans excited and to hopefully want more of that. I think that was what really drew us to it.
Yeah, it very much feels like you took everything in Last Shift and that was kind of like the seedlings of it, right? And then you kind of just expand it and it blossoms into this gigantic horrific orchard, I guess, if you will. Also, that poster, since we got to post that when you guys released it, and it's fucked me up since, and I try not to look at it, and now you're like, no, you must look into it. So
it's awesome.
It's very disturbing.
You're actually doing this in an Easter egg. You're like hidden right there between his fangs.
I should be. I always want to be only put in his mouth, just placed in there. Yeah.
Just popping out like a little window. So some Last Shift fans have actually been very vocal about their feelings on this reimagining. Like, did either of you expect that going into making Malum? Like, did you know that was going to happen?
I had a feeling, which is why at the beginning I was a little bit like, I don't know, man. I feel fandom is intense. I remember even just being third generation Skins casting. But I remember those announcements. Oh my God. That's why I don't get comments anymore. People are just wild with that. But Anthony was like, this is its own thing, and you just have to treat it that way. And it's so interesting with that because I know we're in a world of nostalgia porn and like remaking everything, but with this, I feel with like modern like reimaginings when it hasn't been that far. It makes sense. Like you were given a chance to explore a new world, you've given a bit more of a budget, and it's the creator themselves doing it. Like I always think that's interesting. And now that I'm able to, because told me not to watch Last Shift before we did it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now that I'm able to, I'm going to be excited to go back and watch that. I don't know. It's intriguing to me.
Right.
So.
But the fans, I think, I like it too, because a lot of them are like, this movie ripped Last Shift.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. And I'm like, somebody really wrote, my dad screenshot it. He was like, they really put the name of the guy who did the previous movie and everything. And I'm like, oh my Lord.
But it's kind of fun though. It's like, well, at least, but like, no, it is.
So I'd be like, see it because you hate it so much.
This was really interesting to me though, because it was like, okay, I was like, tell me you didn't read the article without telling me you didn't read the article. Because we put it all out there. I'm like, no, it's the same person, guys. But then even then it was interesting to me because I'm like, it's your story. They're both your movies. So I'm like, it's not like somebody is taking something and remaking it or rebooting it. It's like you're telling the story that you've been with since the inception of it. So it's like, chances are you're telling this, no, this is also a vision that I had for it. So I'm like, why is that a thing?
It would have been great if I just did like a shot for shot remake, like the same movie. It's just totally the same.
I mean, to watch it, and then I just,
Yeah, she goes back. She's like, wait, it's the same first shot.
you look like I
That was my plan from the get-go. This is like just one big like joke on Jess here. She's
Gotcha.
go for our lives thinking it's one big joke on us.
Oh my God.
the only one who hasn't watched the first. And I'm like, what the fuck? Jokes on me.
Finding you in the video.
But I think one of the cool things here for like, I mean, it's obviously you can watch this as a standalone thing. You don't have to watch Last Shift and then watch this because that's not the point. It's this reimagining of, you've kind of created this world and expanded upon it. But if you are a fan of Last Shift, then watching this, some of it almost feels like Easter eggs because you'll have like a line that's like lifted from Last Shift and it's also in this. And then as a fan, that just feels Easter egg-ish. It doesn't feel like, I don't know. So I'm like, if you are a fan of Last Shift, go and watch Malum because I promise you, it's not, maybe not what you guys were thinking if you're angry in the comments about it.
I think they'll have fun anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you guys will have a good time. Blast.
Yeah, to me, the most important thing was if a new audience can come in fresh, that they don't have to watch the first film. They're coming in, they're going to get a totally new experience. And if they never want to watch the first one, they never have to.
Right. Another great thing on this is you worked with Russell Effects. Just the little pet on that. But yeah, you guys got to work with Russell Effects on this, and they just came off of like the new Hellraiser, and they created some like epic shit for this. What was that like working with them?
I think, she can have her experience from the actor side of it. For me, it was like going in, we knew we wanted a team that was very confident with practical effects and that we wanted to put a much bigger budget aside for practical effects. I think it was important that giving an audience and giving them saying like, okay, here are the challenges in the script. How are we going to do these things? Going in early with the team and brainstorming, so like, how do we do this in camera as much as we can throughout the whole movie and give the audience something new at every turn, sustain it till the very end. That was really important for us. Because going into a budget, I think there's always like, I'm going to pick a couple things to focus on, like where's the money going? Is it going to camera? Is it going to cast? Is it going to effects? And effects was a big one that we'd be like, okay, we want to make sure they have the means to deliver on this. And on your side,
They did. It was that's like a highlight of the job. It was getting to see all of that come to life. That felt like I was really making something that people cared about, and that, especially when you have content like this, you want people to have heart behind it. I guess I know it's just like fun, wild ride, but there is like a strange darkness to it. And then having the prosthetics and everything being made and created for you just helps your performance. And then
it was made for her.
It was
all
I'm an only child.
It was all for you.
All for you.
I'm an only child. Shout out to my sister.
It makes all the sense in the world now.
It makes you just you like get a whole love for it, and you get to appreciate horror, and from that getting to fall in love with horror, like really, and like I watch all movies and all films, so I don't really have like a preference per se, but getting to see that be made in front of you, it feels very special, and it makes you want to go out there and watch other films and see how it's done.
Just opened you up to the world of horror. Yeah, I love it. You have a very like Evil Dead kind of moment in this. I don't know if you've seen Evil Dead, but there's like a moment where like Ash is like very much covered in blood, and you just see like the eyes, and you very much are just drenched. Like, do you have any horror girl tips for how to not like get that in your eyeballs?
Here's you will get it in your eyes. It will burn.
Okay, all right.
No, here's a tip. You don't rely on the first wipe of with the wet wipe, you have to get eye drops. You have to wipe, eye drops, wipe again, eye drops.
What
There's
eye
a
drops?
process,
Continuous eye drops.
layers to it.
But don't think, because at first I just wiped my eyes around and I'll be okay. It like made it, it's like drinking water after something really spicy.
Mhm.
You know, you need milk.
It's a little spicy on the eyeballs.
Yeah, it's a little spicy. It's a spicy. You need the ball in the eye.
It's like your own meatball in your head.
Yeah, your eye is a meatball.
It's a meatball.
I can match your eyeball.
Drive me up and down. That noise.
Oh my God. Anthony, you have a really interesting background. Do you want to talk a little bit about just kind of your work with Clive Barker?
Yeah, I was lucky enough early on, right out of school, to land a job with Clive, and I worked with him closely for so many years, like very closely for like 8 or 9 years, and then when I started directing, him being always someone I'd rely on and go back to for advice. I still talk to Clive, and it was to learn from someone. Clive early on, when I was in college and I loved effects, and there was a time where I was like, hey, maybe I'll do makeup, maybe I'll do effects. And when I got to LA, you're kind of overwhelmed by the whole, like, holy shit, everyone here just wants to make movies.
Yeah.
Oh. And effects is a craft. I could be like, you can rely on your craft. This is something you can show. With writing and directing and producing, it's also ethereal and subjective. And so for a few minutes there, I was like, maybe I'll seek out an effects house and try to get a mentorship. And I was like, I would love to get into horror. And I sort of talked to my counselors at college and stuff. And I was in LA at Emerson, and they were like, here's some horror filmmakers that are accessible that maybe we can reach out to. And Clive was someone that I got a meeting with, and because I loved the way he talked about movies. I loved the way he talked. He's a Renaissance man. He's not just a director. He was an artist. He was an author. I loved his whole approach to the genre being more of he never looked at it as a genre. It was just like this. It was this all-encompassing world that took over. His when he was writing about it, he made the mundane like mystical, and I just loved that. And so I think that influenced me a lot in telling a story like Malum. It's like let me embrace the audience, bring them in, feel like they're watching something familiar, scare them, but then also maybe feel like they're part of this world they haven't quite seen before, and they're being seduced by it, and it has some fantastical elements that I think, but Clive is definitely that influence on me.
I love that. That's amazing. And this definitely brings the kind of mystical to the mundane, because it seems very much like our world, and then it's rooted in reality, and then all this other shit starts happening, and we're also experiencing all of this through Jessica, and I feel like she never quite has her footing, so we don't ever quite have our footing. So there's a point where it's like, what's real and what's not? Maybe all of it is real, and it's like this kind of like this slippery kind of thing as we're going in and out of like what the fuck is actually happening. And I think it's actually all happening. It's terrifying, but yeah.
I was fine for like, I'm cool if an audience member walks away and is a little confused. I think that's good.
Yeah, because it is confusing at times. Also, like, just filming it, keeping the pacing of everything. It was like, what's happening, what's going on, and then I had to like. Well, you also said that too. It's like, well, we gotta just go with that, because that is what is going on. Right?
Yeah.
It's deeply it is. There's like it's so like it can be like so like flat. She's like going about her job, and then she's like, "Am I seeing this?" And then she's kind of accepting of it. And I don't know, I like the mundane mystical thing, because I think I was sort of doing this. I heard more about like I've heard genre a lot more during this project, but to me, I always just treated it in my head as like as a standalone, like regardless if it's horror or whatever, it's still a film, and I just love to watch film. I
Yep.
know that there is a whole culture attached to to everything, but I just viewed it as that as much as possible. So yeah, anyway, back to like her not having her footing. Yeah, it's completely disorienting. She's lost, but at the same time, she's very intrigued. I think she's always just a little, because she just wants to know what happened to her
Right.
father.
She's on a mission.
She's on a mission,
Yeah.
and she has to remember that. And she's been put through training of dealing with things that might be oh, it's shocking. But oftentimes I feel with people, like, you do just sort of stand there and absorb things that are happening to you, whether it's like gruesome or just like violent, like you just what the human mind can just take in is kind of fascinating. So I just rely on that. Like, she's trying as much as possible to say it's, I don't know, is she trying as much as possible to say it's not happening? I don't know. I don't know actually.
I also do not know.
Yeah.
But I think that also adds to the horror element so much, because it's like, well, what do you do in that situation? You know what I mean? Like, this things are happening and you're questioning it, but also either way, either answer is terrifying. If you're imagining it, that's terrifying. If you're not imagining it, also terrifying. So either way, you're fucked.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you guys would want to share with us before we go?
I just hope everyone has a blast. Because I did leave, funnily enough, I did leave when I first saw it. I thought about it a lot. And I think it's cool when a movie can make me do that. I separated myself from watching it and being a heavy critic. I got to see finally the world separate from just my character. And I hope people have fun.
Nice. You were able to just watch it like, I'm just watching this is like to appreciate the movie and the stories, and you're able to separate. That's awesome.
Yeah, of course, I'm always going to be critical of certain things and want to go back in time and change things, that I like, tweak things here and there. But as a character, I'm happy with her, and I also really enjoyed getting to see the cult.
Yeah.
I think I was really focused on that. So
Nice.
that was,
Because you're not, yeah, that was all new
that
to
was
you.
really fun to see.
Yeah.
I loved seeing that. So I hope they have a good time.
We love to see a cult. We love it.
Aura girl, that's how you would say it.
Aura.
The ancient.
Aura girl.
Aura
That's
girl.
the ages say now.
Aura girl.
I did that for you, so we would all be on the same page for proper pronunciation. You're welcome. Just being thoughtful. Aura girl.
Aura girl. Aura girl is how I say it. Aura.
In
Aura,
Wales.
yeah.
In Welshian.
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 Speaks of
All right.
Welshian.
Well, thank you guys so much for this. How do you say goodbye in Welshian?
Oil.
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 Oil, your own
Oil.
problems.
Yeah.
All right. Malum is in theaters this time, March 31st. Last shift is streaming, but this is in theaters, baby. This is a whole different experience.
Whole different game here.
Yeah.
Different game.
Go see it. Go see it.
Nuts.
Colts and blood and all kinds of weird shit waiting for you. And very sweet effects, may I say. Yes.